Hello everybody, my name is Connor and I'm going to go over character creation in my home main game, Humanity's Dance. In order to start making a character for Humanity's Dance, you're going to want to go find a character sheet. I have a few that I put up on the Discord and they're easily accessible, although overall the character sheets aren't really anything special and you might think of a way that better suits you. As you can see at the top here, we're going to have to make name, call sign, rank, faction, height, and weight. For a name, I'll just go with mine to start, Connor. Call signs, that's normally going to be assigned by a GM or made by the group once you have a whole. The call sign part is more for the military roleplay aspect of things. For this example, I'll go with Romeo 3. Rank, that'll also depend really on the roleplay circumstances of things. Just for the sake and ease of things, we'll go with a lieutenant. That's a pretty solid weight or rank for pilots. Faction, United States, baby. Height, well, I'm about 6'2", so I'll throw myself in there. Weight, I'm about 180. So there you go. That first part is done. Now we move on to the actual rules intensive part of this. We're going to have to look at skills. All the skills are going to be listed right here on pages 4 through 5. And the character creation, well, pilot creation table will show you how many you get per each level. I'll be making a level 1 character, which means I get 6 trained and 1 familiar skill. Now the skill modifiers that you get for trained, familiar, veteran, and elite vary slightly. Overall, they're not such a major difference. It ranges from a +6 at elite to a +2 at trained. The major thing about increasing your rank is that you get rerolls to prevent you from making horrible flaws, or so you can try and push through something really good to happen when you need it to happen. Both trained and familiar skills only give you +2s, but a familiar skill gives you 1 reroll per fight or engagement. I'm just going to make a versatile mid-range fighter, so a little bit of long-range combat, a little bit of short-range combat, so in order to really fulfill that role, I need to pick a useful array of skills here. I think I'll go with Knowledge HCE to start. It helps to know who you're fighting. So I'm going to put that at Trained for a +2. Oh, that was in Mechanics. I'll leave it because it also doesn't hurt to have that trained either, but it should have been here. Trained +2. So now I have two of my 4 trained, and I still have 1 familiar. Pilot maneuvering will be the next one. Sometimes things just happen that'll be unexpected, and you're going to want to be able to really throw it into afterburner and get out of dodge. Use computer HCE. It'll make me a more stable pilot, more resistant to hacking, and it'll open up another array of weapons, so to speak, that I can use when the time comes. Now, obviously, I'm a soldier, so I think I'm going to take the pilot range weapon and melee weapons because I'm trying to be a versatile fighter. Well, I really like guns, so I think I'm going to go with a familiar here for a +2 with 1 reroll. And then I will take this one as trained for just a +2. Now we get one last trait, well, skill. And I think I will take perception. Don't want to get ambushed. It happens a lot, especially in urban combat when you could be fighting anything from infantry or to see an incoming helicopter way out before it notices you. Just overall, the more you see, the less likely you are to get hit first in a combat, and that matters a lot in Dance of Humanity, where you really aren't all that durable unless you really put a lot of effort into making yourself more survivable. Now we come to the HCE stats. The HCE, or Heavy Combat Exo Armor, is essentially the centerpiece of the game. So to start, we need to find a model. Let's do that on play. Okay. HCE stats. As a United States pilot, I've sort of shoehorned myself into picking either the independent faction HCEs, which are here, the Autark and the Savage, or the United States ones, which are here. It's a mid-range versatile fighter. I'm not going to try and take anything that's really shoehorned into a specific role. The Buffalo is a great example of an assault mech, or assault HCE, but it's pretty slow, and its sensors aren't the best, so I think I'll ditch that. But I like where it's aiming with the survivability on the armor. The next most armored, or well defended, machine is going to be the Dragon. It has a much better speed and sensors, so it matches up with my overall design of a mid-range versatile fighter. So I think I will select the Dragon. Alright, so the speed is 8, and the boost speed is 14. The speed is what you're going to be, the normal distance you'll be moving. The boost speed is a special movement that you can take in place of firing weapons, where you can not only move faster and further, but you can, in a sense, hop with an extended boost jump that lets you essentially fly for the extent of your turn. So that's 14. Armor and survivability are next. We see an armor value of 5 and a survivability of 16. Armor, as in most games, will just increase your damage resistance so you don't get hit as hard by things, and in some cases you might just be completely immune to whatever hits you. Survivability is 60, I believe. Yes. Okay. Now we have stealth and sensors. Stealth here is in the electronic stealth, not so much the camouflage, which is visual. The Dragon doesn't come with any latent stealth, so that's going to be left blank or a 0, but it does have a sensor value of 35. Sensor value helps you pick up enemies before they are eye to eye with you, and it's very important in urban combat, such as Mount, or perhaps mountainous terrain, or in low visibility environments such as a sandstorm or a blizzard. HE weapon and equipment slots. So now is when you really get into the nitty gritty where you get to build the HCE. Before you go down to that, you're going to want to check to see what sort of equipment comes on it already, which is 2 canister launchers. The canister launchers can house anything from grenades to smoke charges to flashbang grenades to EMP devices. So there's one in the torso and one set in the legs. Okay. So now we have the canister launchers in, and there's nothing else. Some things come with weapons, such as the chest blade or the 50mm cannon. Others come with unique modules that you can perhaps unlock later through customization, such as quantum camouflage, or they come with support equipment such as the Spur, which is a massive command and controlled radar. Moving down right here, you're going to pass over the customization options, which you don't start with any at level 1, but the main point of these is to really customize any HCE you want to fit the bill of what you want it to do. So you can turn buffaloes into much more agile machines, or you can take a meteor, which is a lightweight scout, and up armor it and turn it into a more effective combat machine. All throughout here you'll find different examples of equipment that we can take also. Here's one grenade canister loadout, which is the high explosive dual purpose grenades. Another more defensive type is the blind smoke defense canisters. I actually think I'll take those two. I like the flexibility that it'll give me, so I'll take a HEDP canister, and I will take a blind canister. Now with the canisters selected, we'll keep moving on down to the weapons. HE weaponry. A majority of weapons in this game, especially at the vehicle scale, you will just roll one dice to make your attack, but depending on essentially the rate of fire or the latent precision of the weapon, you'll get an attack modifier. And based on how, the value by which you beat the defense of the person you are shooting at, you roll additional damage. Now if you have an S modifier like this, it's a single shot weapon, so if you just make contact, you'll deal full damage. Full damage being the dice damage, not max dice damage. So the bread and butter weapon most people should take, because its versatility, is the HE combat rifle, which is essentially, imagine a upscaled M4 assault rifle with an M203 grenade launcher underneath it. So that'll be the first weapon I'll take for my dragon. I think I'll start holding that, so the HE combat rifle will go on my left arm. Moving on. The 40mm Gatling cannon and the 30mm Vulcan are also two rapid-fire weapons. The 30mm Vulcan is extremely effective against more light targets, such as infantry or perhaps technicals. And the 40mm Gatling cannon is more of a suppressive weapon. It's great at shooting at small things as well, just like the 30mm Vulcan, except it's back-mounted. So if you've ever played Armored Core, for example, the chain guns will come over the shoulder, but in this case you have to stabilize it because of the rapid rate of fire. Both of these are very good for shooting down missiles or helicopters, which often have a very high DC to hit but not much health. The 90mm scatter gun is a great weapon for mount or military operations in urban terrain. It's essentially a massive shotgun. That pretty well sums it up. Following up is the 105 guided munitions cannon. It's a smart gun, and it's a tank gun with smarter guided ammunition. So it doesn't hit as hard as the 140mm version, but you have bonuses to hit, so you'll hit more often. So going over some of these, I think I would like to take the 90mm scatter gun just to give me some close range capability. So I'll take a scatter gun. So now that I have two guns, there's still a lot of weapons that we can go over that later on, such as the missiles. Missiles in this game are very potent, but they come at the expense of being able to be avoided by things such as flares or being shot down by active defense systems. I don't have very much heavy long-range firepower, so I'm going to take an AT missile rack. The AT missile rack is good, especially on a back mount, because it doesn't need to be held in the hand to shoot. The scatter gun will need to be equipped into a hand in order to fire, so it'll sit latent and passive for most of the game. So now I have three offensive systems, but I still have an arm open, so we're going to keep looking. I could take a melee close combat weapon, such as the long blade or a lance, but instead I'm leaning towards a shield or a supplemental armor system. The Mark V Citadel comes with a blade vane attached, so it also doubles as a albeit weaker, close combat weapon. So I think I'll take that to enhance my survivability and fill the role of close combat if it comes up. Mark 5 Citadel. So now that's all 4 slots filled. Some things have additional slots, such as the Autarch, which has a center line 5th slot that can hold equipment, while some only have 2 or 3, such as the Valiant, which only has 1 back mount, leaving it with a total of 3 slots. Right leg and miscellaneous. There's some equipment that... Oh, we forgot to look at magazines. Most weapons of the game can be reloaded in combat. The odds of you running out during one engagement with a weapon is pretty slim unless you really rely on the one weapon through an extended combat, but it still happens. So, we will see how many magazines I can take with the dragon. The dragon has 2 in the legs and 2 in the arms, so that's a total of 4 magazines, which is that's a lot, especially for HEs, with the majority having 2. I'm not sure I'll need 4 magazines, so I'm going to go back up to the equipment section and look to see if there's anything else that I want to take. Because some things will replace magazines, while others will take up back mount, such as the field maintenance suite. Here we go, here's one. We can use the Intelligent Seeker explosives. They replace a magazine, and they are essentially thrown guided rockets. You can pull them out and throw it like a hand grenade, and then it'll guide itself onto a target. So I'll take 1 set of those. So I will go and throw that. We'll put that in the right leg. ISE. So now I still have 3 magazines. It seems I forgot to put a magazine slot on here, so I will impromptu just throw this in. Magazines. So the HE combat rifle takes 50mm rounds for the main gun, and the 140mm underslung can also be reloaded, as well as the scatter gun, which I'm taking. The 50mm portion of the weapon system will probably be seeing the most use because it's the most utilitarian. So I'm going to take 2 magazines for the 50mm. The scatter gun is more of a backup weapon because I'm not going to try and be in super close range combat. So instead I will take a 140mm GL magazine. So now that's all 3 magazine slots filled. Now here's the weapons table. Go through and fill out what all the weapons do. So the 50mm autocannon. We'll go in here. So as you can see, the weapon name is here. The modifier, it'll have a +6 to hit, and it's not a single shot, so this damage for every specific amount will double. So if you have to hit something with a 10, but you instead roll a 16, you're going to get a 2nd degree of success, which means this 2d4 damage goes up to a 4d4 damage. Ammo here is not the literal amount, but it's the effective bursts of ammunition. The range increments determine how hard it is to hit an enemy at base, and then the modifier that affects the enemy's defense is based on circumstances such as cover, camouflage, and movement speed. Special, we'll get to that a bit later with things that pop up. Alright, so we have the 50mm combat rifles from the HCECR. Now we need to get the 140mm grenade launcher, which is here. See, this is single shot with no modifier, so it's essentially you hit and you deal 40-10 damage. As you can see, this has much less ammo and a much smaller range increment, so you can use it in a similar role to the shotgun, but there is a special rule that'll go along with this. So here's an example of a special rule. If we use the combat rifle in 2 hands, we get a +4 to hit. Well, that's nice. I think I'm going to prefer to go with the defensive bonuses, at least to start, because I would rather have the shield, not need it, and drop it, than end up getting ambushed and need the shield but not have it, because I was looking for a bonus to hit. As you can see, the grenades can be intercepted by an ADS system. But here's an important rule. The 140mm grenade launcher targets the square that an opponent is in, and a square is counted as a large model. So you're going to be hitting most things at way easier DCs than if you were shooting at them normally. It is way easier to hit an infantry squad with the 140mm grenade launcher because you can target the square, so instead of targeting infantry scale targets, you're now going to target a large vehicle scale target. So we'll throw that in here just so we don't forget. +4 if two-handed. That's some ugly spacing, but what can you do? Alright, moving on now. I'll go find the scattergun and I'll pull that in there. Now the scattergun has a good number of rules for it, so this is definitely one where you're going to want to read up on it before you try and take it out into the game. But the base damage table shows, I believe, 64. Yeah, 64. But that's if you have it in the spread pattern. Instead, you can activate the smart choke to have it target one square or one target, and you'll increase your damage by 50% up to 94. So that's a special rule that's important. And then also, if you're in a point blank range increment, which is we'll discuss later in a rules section or in a future video. At range increments 2 and above, you must successfully make the attack twice, but if you're within point blank, then you get to reroll your attack. So this thing is an excellent close-in weapon. And it also comes with a bayonet, which can be used as a blade vein or as a knife in close combat. They function pretty much the same. So you can pick blade vein or knife. So with those special rules in mind, I will go get the data from up here. As you can see, this is a single shot, but instead has a modifier, unlike the 140mm grenade launcher from earlier. I didn't grab this. 10. Alright. Last thing is going to be the AT missiles. AT missiles have a very reliable damage, but they also have a lot of rules that go with it. They can't be reloaded, so you have a very limited supply of them. They can be shot down by hostile fire. They have a minimum range, but with all those qualms, they're very reliable. They will always hit their target, except for flares. So, AT missile racks, if used properly, will deal immense damage, but if they're not used properly or they're used in less than ideal circumstances, you're not going to get much done with them. A very important thing to do in this game is to stack fire onto one target to overcome the defenses they have, because at baseline level, things such as an ADS will be able to shoot down one missile per turn, and so if you can only shoot 2, you only have really one missile that can get through, and then they can still try and defend with flares or other weapon systems. So stacking fire is vital. The intelligent seeker explosives from up above are also a form of weapon, so I'll throw that in the table too. The intelligent seeker explosives, they can be thrown 8 inches and land. So these also target squares. They don't need line of sight, which is something neat. So these things have 3d8 damage, and they have an armor piercing of 2. 3d8 AP2. I'm just going to copy and paste this over because it looks nicer. So now HCE special rules. I sort of bypassed this earlier, but all the HCEs have some sort of special rule just to make them stand out. Down here is the dragon, the EH29A2 dragon. It has a very good targeting system, so it increases the range increments on ranged weapons by 5 inches, and you never count snap shooting. Snap shooting is something that comes into play a lot in mount or close quarters combat, where you just sort of turn around a corner and there's the guy, so you need to fire without properly lining up. The dragon's targeting systems clearly overcome this, and so you always count as if you have seen the target for the turn to fire at them, so you have better chances to hit. The other rule is the same targeting sensors now come with an armor analysis capability, so you can spend a turn action and you can analyze a target with a DC-10 Use Computer HCE check. And if you succeed that check, it now has 2 less armor effectively for when you shoot at it. That can be really good for shooting at things such as armored fighting vehicles or the sides of main battle tanks, where between the mediocre armor piercing of your combat rifle, you'll be able to really deplete the armor you're shooting at quickly and still deal some pretty effective damage. Or for things such as the AT missile rack, you'll just be able to overcome armor entirely and deal a lot more damage than you could have been. Next thing you see here are the LCEs, or light combat exo armors. These won't come into play as often unless you're really running a mission exclusively with them. But the LCE is more of a backup suit for HCE pilots. It's stored somewhere on the HCE, whether it be the pelvis or in the leg, whatever the case is. But it essentially acts as like a power armor suit for if your primary HCE is destroyed. There are 2 types of LCEs. There's the Prowler and the Whistler. The Prowlers are transformable and they're a bit quicker on the ground, but the Whistlers are a bit more heavily armed and have flight capabilities. Just for simplicity, I think I will just take a Whistler. These 2 aren't named, but as you can see here, one has a bit more health and armor, but is slightly slower than the other one. I think I will take this one, because if I'm getting shot down, I think I would rather survive. I'll just call this Whistler Heavy. So speed of 3, a boost of 6, a survivability of 18, stealth and sensor. Okay, let's just have a sensor rating of 15 and stealth rating of 10. Put that in there. Okay. Now we'll look at weapons. You can take 2 weapon systems from the Prowler entry, and it can be taken twice. Okay. One weapon can be replaced with a hacking module, or I can select some AT missiles. Okay, so I think I'll take 2 elite level AT missiles, because the AT missiles, it'll be more of a get out of jail free card. I don't really plan on staying in the sustained combat with these when I'm in a Whistler. So if I need to do it, I would rather just be able to dump my load quickly in a burst. So the AT missiles like that are potent. When it says elite level, it's referring to the infantry up here. And here you can see this rather dense table, but the AT missiles are here, so they are guided. So that's irrelevant for us. So like, here they are. They have a damage capability of 48 with an armor piercing level of 3. So these are I'm sorry, that is not irrelevant for us. Plus 6S. It's guided. Ammo 2. No range increment because it's a missile. Now, what other weapon do I want to take? To go down to the Prowler entry. So I can take the thermobaric missiles. I can take the magnetic railgun, or I could take the standard long arms. I think a squad automatic weapon would do me some good. As you can see here, the assault rifle fires 3 times but has no modifier, but it's single shot, so you can do at max 1d6 damage. The saw, on the other hand, has a longer range increment, 2 less attacks, but it's not single shot, so I can deal additional damage based on my modifier. So I will take a saw. Okay. So that goes there. 1d3 minus 1 for vehicles. 1d6 damage normally. Don't believe ammo, yeah. Ammo, it doesn't exist for this. There is no modifier. Okay. So now I have a fully statted out and ready to go character for a level 1 game of Humanity's Dance. This is Fletcher, signing out. Thanks for watching.